Thank you for the plug of my bill. And the chair recognizes Mr. Huffman for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Secretary, welcome back to the committee. You are breaking good news in incredible ways to communities all over this country because of the legislation we passed in the last Congress and because of your good work implementing it. So thank you for that. But some of the questions that you've had from across the aisle have been, frankly, just casting about wildly to malign electric vehicles. And I was surprised to hear the suggestion that EV battery fires are somehow a great risk to public health, but no discussion of the fossil fuel infrastructure and vehicles and other fossil fuel aspects that are exploding and burning and harming and killing people every day in this country. Could you just sort of speak to the relative threat to human life, safety, and public health as between EV batteries and all of the fossil fuel vehicles, tankers, trucks, pipelines, and refineries that are going boom seemingly every day somewhere in America?
Well, it'd certainly be absurd to dismiss the danger and damage that has been associated with flammable liquids being used to propel our vehicles over the course of the last 100 years. Of course, there's a framework of regulation to try to minimize that danger and harm, just as we're building a framework of regulation to make sure that any harm or risk associated with electric or any other propulsion, hydrogen, you name it, is appropriately managed. We just don't view any of those risks as an excuse to stick to dirty and expensive fuels and older technology that, again, as we've been shown in sometimes shocking fashion, can lead to the destruction of property and life in incidents, not to mention the destruction of property and life being documented as a consequence of the pollution.
Yeah. Well said. My colleague from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, kind of broke the fact-check machine with some of his attacks on electric vehicles. He stated that the cost of electric vehicles is going up. Just for the record, Mr. Secretary, I believe that's false. Can you tell us what the cost of electric vehicles is doing these days?
Cost of electric vehicles is going down, and we have even seen research indicating that if you look apples to apples, which can be a little challenging, but the basic determination when you compare an EV to a comparable internal combustion engine, according to J.D. Power, is about $53,600 for an EV, $54,400 on average for the gas vehicle. That's before you account for the $2,000 or so a year that an EV owner can save in fuel costs, and the $6,000 or so in lifetime lower maintenance and repair costs, simply because an EV tends to have fewer moving parts.
Right. According to my just quick Google search just now, EV prices new EV prices are down year over year 18%, which is much more than for non-EVs over the same year over year period. And for used EVs, the prices are down even more, 27% decline in price year over year. So is that consistent with your understanding of where we're headed on prices?
Yes, and I think it's intuitive if you consider how new the EV technology is relative to internal combustion technology. In other words, any improvements we see in cost today on an ICE engine are after 100 years of refinement, whereas the stage we're at with EVs might be better compared to where we were when internal combustion got as far as the Model T. More work will happen that will make them more efficient, and it's not surprising that that cost curve is moving down faster for EVs than for ICE cars right now.
My colleague also suggested the federal government was buying the majority of EVs in America. You thankfully put that in. I think there's a math problem over there because it was 0.5% according to?
That's the most recent data that I've seen.
Yeah, pretty far from a majority. On the issue of why bother, because my colleague from Arkansas pointed out that if we electrified our transportation system overnight here in the United States, it would still be only about 1% of global emissions. My understanding is that while U.S. emissions are overall declining, the transportation sector is still going the wrong way. Could you just expand on the sort of why bother argument that has been suggested today?
I think anytime there's a national effort, or certainly a human effort that's going to require a lot of different people to hit their marks in order to succeed, that should motivate us to go above and beyond, not to sit on our hands. America's never been the kind of country that waited for other countries to solve a problem. And I believe we need to lead in this regard. As we do, again, we'll see not only climate benefits, but a benefit in terms of those deaths from particulate matter that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And just to close with an invitation to my district in Humboldt County, where you awarded a $426 million infra grant to modernize a port that will support the offshore wind, floating offshore wind industry. We'd love to show you that incredible project. It certainly puts the light of the notion that this administration has a build nothing ever agenda. And with that, I yield back.